if you're looking for a number for exactly how long you should stay in a role, then that number is about 2 years, at least according to 70% of millennials. I'm guessing you're probably not 100% satisfied with that answer though, because you're either worried about leaving a job too early and that you're going to be judged for jumping around, or you're worried about having been in a job for too long and maybe that's limiting your future career prospects. So what's a good amount of time to stay in a role, and what should you be looking for, more importantly, during that time? A good litmus test to figure out whether it's time for you to be moving on is to ask yourself, am I learning and am I earning? I remember being in one of my first account management jobs where I was a little bored. I'd done the job for a while and I figured out that I'm not getting paid enough to be bored. So that's when I knew it was time for me to move on. And sometimes in your life, your career is not going to be the number one focus or where you can put all of your energy. So if you're not learning a huge amount, but you're earning a good salary and you can focus on other areas of your life, maybe you're happy with that as a temporary state. Or alternatively, maybe you're learning something about a job that you're really passionate about, but you're not quite getting paid what you want to be paid, then that's okay too. You can spend the time learning. But I would say that having just one of these two is more of a temporary state, because you will end up being resentful if you don't feel that you're earning what you deserve. And if you're not tapping into those creative areas of your brain, actually learning, trying to do things differently, you'll notice that you don't bring your best self to work and you'll feel less inspired and less motivated by your role. So ideally, you want to be learning and earning within your current role, or you need to be happy with the decision that temporarily you're only going to do one of those things. Next, you want to ask yourself, what are your reasons for wanting to move on to a new role? Not learning, not earning, those are good reasons. But is it just thinking that another role is going to be slightly better? Because the grass is not always greener on the other side. So perhaps you want to have a different type of responsibility, or you want to get involved in different types of projects. Well, have you first explored that opportunity within your current business? I've seen a number of good examples of people who have recreated a whole new role for themselves. One of my old colleagues was managing accounts, but what he really enjoyed doing was training other people. So what he did was set up an academy where he trained all of our clients on the industry. So he was able to leverage the fact that he was trusted in the organization, he was adding value to create a whole new role for himself. So ask yourself, are there any avenues, areas of interest within your current business that you haven't explored yet that you would find much more fulfilling? The time to do it is before you jump ship. Have a 10-second dance break just to get the thinking going. Let's talk about the reason I don't like my boss, which is why you want to leave your job. And of course, I'm not talking about any abusive bosses. You should take yourself out of that situation as quickly as possible and report them. But aside from that, the more classic, I don't get on with my boss, they're not supporting me. Yes, a boss is a huge part of your day-to-day and how you're going to grow and advance in your career. The thing is, a bad boss is also going to be a really good teacher. And the truth is, being able to work with a bad boss or someone you don't really get on with is going to build your resilience. So if you've very recently joined a job and that is the only reason, I would suggest set yourself a time limit. That could be 6 months, that you put all of your effort into doing the best job that you can and learning how to work with this boss that may not be your ideal boss. I guarantee doing that, you will learn a lot more about yourself, you'll be more resilient, and you will take that into your next role. And speaking of going on to your next role, what's really, really important when you're interviewing, whether you've left a job after, just a couple of weeks of being there, or 6 months or a year or 2 years, gone are the days when people are so strict about, having been at a company for 10 years in order to show your loyalty. Loyalty is not that important anymore. It's much more important the value that you bring when you're there. So the piece of advice that I can give you is stay in your job until you have a story. A story that makes sense, a story that you can sell in an interview, and a story that's going to be appealing for your new employer. Because telling your new employer, I didn't like my boss, unfortunately, that's going to say a lot about you. Or complaining about your old job is going to say to them, whether that's justified or not, the image that shows them is that you didn't learn from a difficult situation. You might be difficult to get along with. We may not want to work with you. So your story has to be something that would make someone want to hire you. And absolutely, some good stories are, I wasn't learning, I wasn't earning, good reasons. I wanted a new opportunity. And this can be particularly difficult if you're leaving a job really soon after you've joined it. So let's say you're a month in, the job is completely not what you wanted, and you're interviewing for other roles. So don't get me wrong, it's going to be harder to explain that. So you need to have a good story when you're going into interviews. And a couple of good reasons that you can find to add to that is, the first is the job was completely not what you expected. Maybe it was sold to you in a different ways. The responsibilities were quite different. That's a reason that will fly. Or additionally, you could just find a company that you really, really want to work for and say, the opportunity was just too good to pass by, and you knew that that would be a great fit. It wasn't previously open, and obviously you needed to get into work and you needed to find a role, but that's the reason that you're going for it. But you need to be crystal clear on your reasons for leaving the last role, so you don't just jump ship and make the same mistake again. So sticking it out just a little bit longer, even if you feel a little bit uncomfortable in that role, if you haven't been there for too long, let's say under a year, can be super beneficial to helping you build that story. And while you're in your role, do your best to add everything that you can. You won't be able to fix everything in one day, but making small improvements over time will really add to your CV and make you someone who's much more employable. So, some food for thought. Should you stay? Should you go? That's up to you, but hopefully this has given you some good areas to think about and make the best decision for you. If you enjoyed this, my name's Eva Evangelou. I'm a career coach and customer success director, and I've got new videos every Friday on all things career. So subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you're the first to know. Have a great week.